Welcome, independent researchers, skeptics, and all of humankind, to Shadow Citizen. Shadow Citizen will explore the shadows of an alternate reality. Your hosts, Rachael L. McIntosh.
Well, all right, everybody, we're back for another week, and I'm Rachael L. McIntosh. I'm your host of Shadow Citizen, and tonight I'm going to do something completely different that I ever really did before. I'm going to be taking calls from our audience. Last week, I interviewed a man named Ken Caldeira. He was the author and is the author of the UN's Intergovernmental Climate Change Report. And he said some things that, he and I were just chatting. And then right after the interview, I wanted to do the call-ins for the people that had questions. And none of the calls were showing up. Turns out people were trying to call in, and I wasn't seeing them on my website, my conference manager website. So tonight we're going to try to do this again, and people can say what they think about what Ken Caldeira was talking about. He was talking about different proposed solutions to climate change via geoengineering. And I do have to say, I spent a lot of time on this geoengineering stuff on this show, Shadow Citizen, and I didn't intend this to happen when I started the show, but I do think this is probably one of the biggest problems on the planet right now that most people don't even know about. The more I learn about this, the more I'm finding out this is probably a real problem that us here on Earth have to deal with. Because since Al Gore came out with his Inconvenient Truth movie, people have been very, very concerned about climate change. And before that, people didn't really think about it. They just said, oh, it's warm today or it's cold tomorrow or whatever. But then that movie came out and they showed it at public schools relentlessly. And I think it changed a generation's view on how humans interact with the planet. And I don't know if I suspect that Al Gore had monetary influence in what he was doing with that movie. I know I was really freaked out when I first saw it. It did freak me out a lot. But then I came to understand some things about how the sun interacts with our environment. And then when I started to hear what the actual proposals were for dealing with climate change, specifically the one that Ken Caldeira told us about last week, which I thought would have been a pretty decent one, where they were going to take seawater and shoot it up into space to create some sort of cloud. That was from out in Washington, I believe. Washington or Oregon, one of the universities on the West Coast. And that sounded like it would be a pretty good idea. But then I found out the sun would evaporate the water, and then we'd be left with a cloud of salt, and eventually we'd have salt falling down on us, snowing or raining salt, which, if you think about it, that's a pretty traditional way of killing crops. So, I didn't know what to think about that. So I'm glad people wanted to call in last week, but I couldn't see you. So I'm so sorry about that. But somebody's calling in right now, and I hope it's somebody that wants to talk about last week's show. I'm going to put them on, and let's see who this is on the call. Hello? Hello? Who is this? I don't know. I don't know if they can hear me. Okay, let's see if I can do that. I'm looking at that was Danny, the producer of American Freedom Radio. He's like the head honcho. I've got a phone number here. Okay. And I don't know where I'm looking. Hide, unmute, play. It is on mute. Okay. Let's see. Let's go over here. All right. Now, is this person online now?
Hey, Rachel, it's Jolie.
Hey. Jolie, I hear you. Okay, great.
Hi.
Oh, I'm so glad you called in. Good, good, good. So were you able to hear the show last week?
I was able to tune in at parts of it, but I was trying to call in like with a lot of the other people. But I heard some of it. So yeah, I'm kind of familiar with the mantra and the narrative that comes from the Carnegie camp.
Okay. Now I just want to let people know that I've had you on the show before, and you come from a website called zerogeoengineering.com. And I really respect what you're going to say, and I love that website because you always post things that are relevant to the geoengineering effort. And it seems that a lot of these papers are back maybe, I don't know, decades ago that they started doing this. So what's your comment about what I said? Are they currently doing this sort of geoengineering in real life? And he said he didn't know of any.
Well, he's just repeating a narrative, and thank you for addressing this very important topic because, the environment is important to people. And so more and more people are getting clued into this science of climate geoengineering, and that's what Ken Caldera promotes and profits from. And, basically, it doesn't have to do with him, it's these practices and activities of adding sulfur dioxide and other contaminants into our atmosphere. And this has very profound and damaging implications for everyone. And he doesn't have the right to do that. And the people do not consent to that. And so what we're trying to do is, have a voice and input in this discussion. Of course, these geoengineers, they have conferences outside of the public forum or ability to give input.
Were you just at one of these conferences recently? I think you were at one of them, weren't you?
I was there. I wasn't in the conference, but there were people in Maine that we were there making a presence and being an objection and rejection of the geoengineering in that town. But that's a good example of what this Carnegie kind of blueprint is. They have these wonderful conferences for these scientists to go and talk about the environmental destruction that they're going to wage. And they have, a very, $500 a night hotel room and catered meals and this and that. But again, they don't have the people's permission. So I just want to go back to the facts we have over 30 tests. We're just one place that has taken, records of these, of rainwater samples, that show the geoengineering footprint in all of them, every single one, 100%. Now, if they weren't doing geoengineering, we wouldn't be finding it in our rain and our snow every single time. So I think it's a convenient thing for Mr. Caldera to say, oh, I don't know about that, but come on.
Yeah.
They've been talking about these programs for decades, as you mentioned, and we have the documents. It's not because I think so or you think so. It's because the documents speak for themselves. They go back to patents in themselves. Yeah. And Bill Gates has an incredible amount of investment in climate engineering, geoengineering, So
you just said something about a patent. Now, somebody else contacted me on Facebook, and they said that Ken Caldera owns a patent for some of the formulas that they are supposedly going to spray out of airplanes, which he says doesn't happen. But is that true?
Well,
does he own a patent?
I haven't seen one with the chemicals involved. What I've seen is patents related to weather alteration and ecological alteration management systems. And so again, they're using language, but what are they doing? They're trying to prevent a hurricane, say, for example, like Bill Gates has lots of money that he's tried to stop hurricanes. What's that? That's taking the moisture out of clouds. And so what's that going to do? It's going to cause drought. So, I mean, the implications of what they're saying by its nature is violent against the environment. And that's why we are rejecting it wholeheartedly and putting in a mechanism, hopefully in all 50 states and around the world, for people to be able to target this kind of pollution emission.
Yeah. Now, I told Mr. Caldera, is he a doctor, by the way? Is he Dr. Caldera, or is he just Mr. Caldera?
I think he is indeed a doctor.
Okay.
Apparently.
So he had just put on his bio that he was a researcher. He didn't say that he was a doctor of anything, so I wasn't quite sure of that. I would have called him doctor on air. I always call people by their title regardless. So he had said that he was not convinced that geoengineering was going on, but he did mention that the Russians may have tried it at some point. And then I mentioned that, he said the Russians may have tried it at some point. And then he said that an organization in the U.S., I believe he said it was something to do with nuclear, like a nuclear agency in the United States became very interested in geoengineering. And we really didn't talk about that too much because he couldn't, but he just kind of dropped that in there. I thought that was interesting that a nuclear agency was interested in geoengineering. And then I told him, I shared that I had done some testing on my rainwater here in Rhode Island, and it had, and I didn't know why it would be in there, aluminum, barium, what else was in there?
Strontium.
Strontium, yes. What is strontium?
It's a chemical agent. And all we know is that this is a component of geoengineering. I encourage people to check out Kristen Megan, who's a Air Force whistleblower, and she's done some videos, and that's what she recommended, to get your rainwater tested for aluminum, barium, and strontium. And we test for sulfur or sulfur dioxide also, just for the reason that Mr. Caldera and Mr. Keith and Mr. Gates are promoting cloud seeding by distributing known pollutants. And so, again, just for them suggesting this identifies them as perpetrators of environmental terrorism, okay? Because on the ground, we've already established, that sulfur dioxide causes acid rain and asthma in children. So if you care about the climate or the environment, and by association, our existence depends on a healthy, clean environment. We cannot allow the introduction of more pollution. So That's why we're coming out even stronger than ever. Forget greenhouse gases, people. That's water vapor, that's plant food. What we're going after is actual emissions, specifically sulfur emissions that we took out of ships, we took out of automobiles. Now it just makes sense. Aviation has got to follow suit, and it's just going to clean up things. And that's only part of the puzzle because, as you know, the ionizing of the atmosphere with electromagnetism is another key ingredient in environmental pollution that we don't talk about too much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, when I talked to Mr. Caldera, Professor Caldera, he said that my rainwater could have been contaminated, I guess, or the results could have came back because I live near the ocean, and algae or something in the ocean could have been making like some sort of sulfur dioxide, something could be coming off this algae and going up into the rainwater. I don't know.
I don't think so, because basically what we're measuring is what's coming down in the rain. So that's in the space above us, right? And so we're not talking about the ocean right now. What we're talking about, and this is why we chose rain or snow, is because that's an accurate measure of what's in the air, period. Okay? So what we want to find out is, there's emissions stuck in the air. And so when it rains out, those contaminants come down, and we've been measuring it in the rain. And so these people are violating pre-existing state regulations and laws related to sulfur. I mean, very clearly in 2010, we took it out of diesel fuel and also in North America on both coasts from the shipping. So why in the world would we ever allow geoengineers to add sulfur dioxide? Why would we do it? We wouldn't. And that's why they go around and have these secret conferences to try to discuss geoengineering governance. Well, you can't do that because it's already illegal in this country. And we just haven't had a mechanism to go and nail them down on it until now.
Okay, you just said something. It's already illegal. So why are they still even doing this?
Right, exactly, because we don't have a mechanism to do it. There's no regulation. See, what's happening is federal law is superseding everything else, and so we have the Weather Research and Innovation Act, H.R. 353, that passed early on in April, I believe, and that allocates funds through 2020, and this is what NASA is doing and the DOD, and this is the same thing that's been going on. It's just a continuum of these same programs. So what we're doing is we caught them because, look, somewhere along the line we have to say no more pollution, no more war on the environment and on people. And guess what? This is the Air Force. These people are accountable to us. We are the people that live here, and we do not consent to this violation on us, the children, all the animals, just all life, basically. So we have to counter it, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and I do have to remind people at zerogeoengineering.com, it's just a loose network of people that are concerned, that are approaching it looks, from my opinion, they're not asking for any money. They're just asking for you to get the information off their website and approach the people in your local government. Correct me if I'm wrong on this, okay? I think that you approach the people in your local government and make them aware that there's programs going on that are breaking the law, and you want to regulate this in the environment, at least over your state. And if you don't know how to do that, or you feel uncomfortable doing that, I'm sure Jolie or anyone at Zero Geoengineering can help you. Am I right on that?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That's totally, we're trying to help, give people the tools so that exactly what you're talking about. We're not going to the feds. We're going to our local assembly members, and definitely call me up, contact me, and I'll help you through the process. We'll provide you with the documents that you need that are going to be state-specific and help you, guide you through the process, because the most important thing in this whole picture, the most precious thing is us, the people. And we can't have liberty if we're going to allow them to just pollute and just do these war games on us. And, we're drawing the line, and we're basically giving our representatives an opportunity to represent us. And we're providing them with a blueprint. It's not a finished thing. What it is a template. Of course, in Rhode Island, you're very lucky because you have the first template, the first Geoengineering Act, which is amazing. So we're just trying to mirror that and again, introduce it locally. And you're acting as a lobbyist would, because this is how bills get passed. Someone comes and they're usually with a stack of cash. And they're trying to push a bill.
You don't need a stack of cash. You don't need a stack of cash. You're supposed to.
No, this is about self-governance. We're showing up with the law we want, and we're saying this is going to be a mechanism for generating revenue for the state, because what we're saying is we're going to aggressively go after polluters. Okay, we do it with the cars, don't we? Okay, so we're going to just apply the same standards. And you could say, well, we're just Rhode Island, or we're just, a Montana, and if we stop it, what about the states around us? They're still going to do it. Well, the thing about this case is sulfur. We're going back to sulfur dioxide, which we're finding in our tests, and that was taken out of fuel, and it's agreed on that it causes harm.
Right.
We
now,
have
Jolie,
to be able to.
Jolie, I have somebody else that's waiting on the line. I want you to hang out, because what you're talking about is very, very important. I feel like we're going to bounce back to you. All right, we're going to try this other person. Let's just see if I can handle this on these phone lines. And I really apologize to anyone who tried to call in last time. The phone number, if you want to call in and join is 218-339-8888. 8525. You can call, and I will try to put you on air. All right, let's see who this new person is, and I'll get back to you, Jolie, because what you're talking about is really important. Okay, I'm going to put you on mute. And let's see who this new person is. Hello, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hello.
Rachel? Hi.
Yeah, hi.
This is Debbie calling from Rhode Island.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for calling. You were the person that was on the air last time when I had to cut you off at the very end of the show. I'm so sorry. You were waiting the whole time to speak. So here you are. Say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, well, I was pretty disillusioned by Ken Caldera's whole presentation, having studied this phenomena since 2011. First hearing about it from a girlfriend in New Mexico in 2003. Apparently the West Coast out there, the Southwest, was being inundated even back then. I didn't see it on the East Coast. I was a New Yorker then for many years, and at the point I started seeing it is when I kind of coincided with What in the World Are They Spraying? Mm-hmm. So that was just coincidental. Then I started doing all this research on it, and then all the groups started popping up, and there was a huge public outcry. And one of the things I'm upset about is that it seems like all government policy is being dictated by industry or by outside groups that interface with the legislation and basically offer laws. And the legislators listen to that and create the law. And, I mean, that's been my experience, whether it's with mandatory vaccination or the GMO foods, the labeling of GMO foods, and geoengineering. So also, can you still hear me?
Yeah, I'm just letting you talk because you're talking about good stuff. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I just wondered because my phone was doing something, so I didn't know.
It was doing something. Yeah, no, but you're talking about. Now, you said something. You saw what the movie What on Earth Are They Spraying? That really impacted you? Okay, yeah, that was a good movie. If people haven't seen it.
Should have been What on Earth Are They Spraying? But it was What in the World Are They Spraying? But it should have been What on Earth Are They Spraying? But yeah, that's the thing that really got me with that movie was like when they were talking about the aluminum genetically engineered seeds that were resistant to aluminum. Now I know there's aluminum in some of our soil, but I mean I was really I have my own GMO free page in Rochester. I still have it. But that just a big light went on in my head. And then when Vandana Shiva was saying when the typhoons came in India and all the lands were flooded with salt, right?
Right.
Monsanto was there with their salt-resistant seed. And, you know, they delivered their foods to the Indians, and the Indians didn't even eat it. And thank God, Vandana Shiva had enough stockpiles, very different than Western civilizations would have seed stocks, like up in that Bolton Arctic or Norway. Mm-hmm. So
you felt this was all connected to controlling people, using the weather, making them have to use a certain seed, and then it was like a way to control people that way.
The typhoon, I don't know back then. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, there's some documentation that Katrina was supersized, Hurricane Sandy was supersized by HAARP. There's all these other covert techniques integrated in geoengineering, and then people would just say, well, that's all just conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that's what Ken Caldera said, because he didn't think anything was going on at that time. But then again, other people are telling me that other things were going on at that time. But go on, continue.
Yeah, so there was this symposium in 2012 in Los Angeles. I think it was the first, and it was consciousness beyond, they use the word chemtrails because most of the groups use that word, and it's just an easy word for people using that word to be called a loon. So it's best to call it geoengineering. I kind of got out of that terminology and it would use the word aerosol spraying because I kind of caught on early on that it was best to stay away from that because it just turned people off.
Yeah. And then, you know what? I'm going to switch over to Jolie because she has something. She said something before about that term, chemtrails. Okay. And I'm going to come back to you. Don't hang up, okay? Don't hang up. All right? I'm going to come back to you. Jolie, did you hear what she just said about the word chemtrail? How she doesn't use that word anymore? Are you still here?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Tell us about the word chemtrail and why it's probably a pretty good idea that she's using the word chemical aerosols or geoengineering to describe what she's talking about.
Yeah, definitely. We're trying to stick with the court admissible terms, and so when we're pursuing, for example, the Weather Research and Innovation Forecasting and Innovation Act, and we can see that they've allocated funds for atmospheric chemistry. I mean, we have to just keep following the line and where the paper trail is leading to, and that's why, the word chemtrail has been ineffective in terms of policy. And the best example of that is in H.R. 2977, which was in 2001. It was called the Space Preservation Act, and it was introduced by Dennis Kucinich. And in that bill, he referenced chemtrails as being a space weapon, an exotic weapon. And then what happened was this bill was thrown out. It was dismissed, and it didn't go anywhere because of that word, apparently. And so I spoke with when I was just beginning to learn about this because I didn't know what the terms were because it is a legal approach, and in a court of law you have court admissible terms and non-court admissible terms, and so we're just trying to choose the ones that we can use in a court of law, which like our legal document H6011 identifies the use of any kind of chemicals, biologicals, electromagnetic. So it goes through the sphere of what we're talking about. We just get very specific about our definitions and our terms. At any rate, we do want legislation that's going to succeed, and so that it can provide a foothold for us to be able to, again, go after these polluters. At the end of the day, it's the air polluters, and, just trying to be consistent with regulations and standards that we already have. So it's not even, that's why we're trying to just target these terms that people that are already in legislation. And the climate change and geoengineering pushers, they avoid the term emissions like the plague. They don't, they're like, we'll get to emissions later. We don't want to talk about emissions, right now, but later we're going to have to get to it. Well, hey, it's sulfur dioxide emissions that we're talking about from airplanes. Okay. So, anyway, I don't know. All right, I'm gonna
put this other woman back on because she was in the middle of something. But I thought it was really important that we talk about that term chemtrails because I know that people, when they finally kind of get a clue about what's going on when you see these things going on in the sky, you'll go online and you'll see people talking about chemtrails, and it's easy to be like, oh, those people are kind of crazy, but then if you switch it up and you're talking in specific legal terms, it's hard for people to call you specifically crazy. So I think it's really
great. Yeah, I mean, we're talking, just science and facts. That's it.
Yeah. So if other people want to call in, and hold on, I'm going to get to the woman that just called in before, but I want people to know the number here is 218-339-8525. Right now, we just talked to Jolie Dawn from zerogeoengineering.com. That's a website that people, if you're concerned about this, you should go to that website. She's this organization, zerogeoengineering.com, is active all over the planet because this is a global situation that we're dealing with. And then she also brought up Rhode Island's bill, Rhode Island H6011. That's something that if you're in another state, you can look at it and you can adapt it to your needs. So I'm going to leave you with that. I want people to call in. Let's go see if our caller is still on the line. Are you still there, caller? Hello? You still there?
Yeah, hi, Rachel. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for staying on the line. Well, Jolie was explaining that.
Yeah,
all right.
Jolie, science is fact, but unfortunately, so many of the scientists today are bought and paid for by the industry, and it's all adulterated what is being considered science.
Okay.
And this is, so going back to that conference in 2012, it was a 3-day conference. It was really just incredible. And I was really taken by Sophia Smallstorm's presentation on them. It was on the biologics that were being attributed to the aerosol spraying. And it was frightening. It was so
wait
frightening.
a second. Tell me about these biologics. What do you mean?
Well, there's a whole community of people in the world that have Morgellons disease, and it could be debated where it's coming from.
Tell people what Morgellons disease is.
Well, it's where something invades the body systems. It's a synthetic biology. So some of them have fibers that are growing out of their bodies and in their bodies, and some have insects that they see under the skin, and these are live forms that are trying to make it sounds like outrageous, but it is indeed truth. And I can go back to Stanford University and find a patent for that particular phenomena. So these people dig these things out. They may be winged, and they have attributes of different animal. There's in biology, there's 3 domains. When I studied back, because I'm older, there was the animal kingdom and the plant kingdom. Now there's 3 different domains. They're called domains. They're not called kingdoms. And those are the bacteria. It's called Archaea and Eukarya, and I'm mispronouncing that. So what also was discovered is that Clifford Carnicom from the Carnicom Institution, which was probably one of the first that started, he was out in New Mexico. He was one of the first that started observing aerosol spraying and started doing tests. And he found what they call cross-domain bacteria, where they were finding it was genetically engineered forms from these three domains that were in people's bodies.
Oh my God. Okay, so, and this is you went to this in 2012, and you saw this, and it was you saw this in 2012 at a conference with Sophia Smallstorm.
What she presented, it's called Pseudo-Life. If you just look up Consciousness Beyond Chemtrails, it was 2012, Sophia Smallstorm. She'll give you her presentation, but the other that I'm talking about is actually what came a little further along. Was it 2010 or 2014 or 15? When I had an interaction with a gentleman that said he was a molecular biologist, and that he had worked independently for Raytheon and Lockheed and all these. This is what he alleged. Very, very bright man. I had a 6-8 month email exchange with him, and he was working with Clifford Carnicom for that time. He's kind of vanished, and I'm not sure what happened to him.
Mm-hmm.
But what was coming out of that time was the fact they were trying to identify this new life form that they discovered that was kind of permeating aspects of life all over.
Oh, okay.
And,
So what you're trying to say, or if I'm understanding you correctly, is that not only were they spraying chemicals into the air, there was some sort of live, living cells that are eggs.
There's been isolated stories where people, globs were coming out of the air and went all over this town in Oregon, and they tried to explain it that it was some kind of whirlwind, little tornadic action that happened out in the Pacific that picked up a school of jellyfish that just happened to be on the surface of the water and dumped it on the town. I mean,
this is X-Files stuff. This is stuff out of the X-Files. This is crazy. All right, so
this really happened to these people. So there's just these people. I mean, I know in fibery things that people are finding, and you know, and then and right now, even with all the rain samples, snow samples that are being taken, we're testing for 4 metals, correct?
Well, yeah, I guess that's what my rainwater got tested for. But should they be testing for bio substances? What the heck, man? This is crazy.
I mean, even our water supply here, unless they're testing for aluminum, barium, strontium, sulfur, are they testing for that? I'll have to call them up, because I'm being told that we have here in Newport, we have one of the most expensive systems in Rhode Island for water, which we're still paying for, and it's the worst in the state, or second the worst. That's what my neighbor told me. And I'm going, that's just wonderful. But are they testing for other contaminants or just their routine tests?
I don't know.
And it's like I've called them about the fluoride, and of course the engineer was, there's nothing to worry about, blah, blah, blah. And then they changed it. Within the year, they changed the federal limits. They passed it. So at least somehow that community has been able to interface enough to get this fluoride down to half the level. Maybe we can save a few brain cells.
I kind of laughed, but you know what? You're right. I mean, what the heck, man? I know they put the fluoride in there because they think it's going to help the health of the nation with healthy teeth, and they'll eat and everything, but it's actually a drug. It's a drug. It's a
and for all we know, they're using chemtrails just to get rid of all the crap they don't know what else to do with. Because we have water laws, we have earth laws. You can't just supposedly pollute in the waterways and pollute it, even though they do. But if you're caught, you're in trouble. But nobody's policing the air except for the smokestack. You know.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go back to Jolie Dawn here, because I want to talk to her about the different laws that are in place, and if they are putting biological elements into the air to test on people, if they're doing that. And she had mentioned the Air Force. Maybe she has a clue on this. Maybe.
Well,
hold on.
It's well documented in St. Louis back in the, when was that? In the 70s?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, on the rooftops of, it was an inner city, kind of marginalized people. Sorry to,
Yeah.
Like, that's what. And I mean, and then like they didn't even bother, 20 years out to even have a follow-up to see how many of those children and moms exposed. Basically, it was a lot of single moms and their children were even alive. There's no follow-up. They did the same thing in Winnipeg way back in the day. Because that was a city in the middle of nowhere, so they had a way of studying what they did. And Canada gave them permission to do that. They were dumping stuff on them.
Yeah. Those are documented for sure. I'm going to throw Jolie back on the line, okay? Because she can maybe talk about this some more. Some of these previous tests. Jolie, are you still with us?
Yeah, thanks, Rachel.
Okay. Did you hear what our other caller was talking about?
Yeah,
these different
bioengineering and geoengineering, and she was right on the money. People should go to carnicominstitute.org and study the research of Clifford Carnicom. And he is probably one of the most knowledgeable researchers of this geoengineering, and you can go look at his YouTube's aerosol crimes and cloud cover.
Okay.
And those are two really good videos that you can get the perspective. And he was actually the one that originally told me to use court admissible terms in pursuit of any kind of legal method or approach. So he was one of the first people to bring that to my attention, and and Rosalind Peterson, of course, who wrote the Geoengineering Act, was one of the primary author of it. And so it's just very clear, just use this term for these, for the legal approach. And and for people studying morgellons, they're, CliffordCarnicom.org, carnicominstitute.org. And there are quite a few people that are knowledgeable on detoxing, and Debbie could probably say more about that. We're definitely dealing with all kinds of contaminants, and it's just kind of an experiment. It's an industry, it's the military, industrial, intelligence, pharmaceutical industry.
All right, I'm kind of shaking right now because if they are, everybody sort of knows in Rhode Island where the caller on the other line and I live, the Lyme's disease is a big thing because Lyme's disease started in Lyme, Connecticut. And then I started hearing, I've had Lyme's disease twice and been out flat with that. It's horrible. It's a horrible thing to deal with. And then I heard that was actually, conspiracy theory central tells you that was it a man-made disease, but I believe that it probably was. And now it's spreading all over the place, all over this country in the United States. It's not moved from the East Coast and moved out. And now we're talking about they're spraying stuff on people. That's some sort of biological thing like that. This is the thing. Out.
That's why we are nonstop and myopic in our quest to shut this down. That's exactly it. We should never even tolerate this type of abuse. They're just doing experiments, but it is biological life that we're trying to save. They can't do their experiments. And Ken Caldera and David Keith and Bill Gates, they don't have any authority. Again, the Nuremberg Code applies here. It has to.
Yeah.
They're doing all kinds of experiments. They're scientists. They do not have consent of the subjects. We are all subjects in their experiments. We cannot have any kind of freedom or liberty if we're going to be violated in this way constantly, 24/7 exposures. Yeah.
Does what they're doing, we brought it up a couple times, the military, like the Air Force and the military industrial complex, is what they're doing in somebody's mind helpful for some sort of military communications maybe, or I don't know, but why would they, I don't know what to do about this, because if it's there to keep us safe, why would they be hurting us? But then again, wow.
Look at the military. Are they going to do anything that's safe for the environment? Just look at the track record. And I encourage people to check out Ilana Freeland's work. She is writing a new book, The Space Fence. I'm not sure if it's out, but see, the ionizing of the atmosphere by injecting the chemical aerosols and then heating or using different techniques with NexRad and these generators that, emit electromagnetism. It's working together. It's overlapping technology, and that's why, we have to just rein it in and insist that there are strict regulations and guidelines placed upon these industries. And yeah, I mean, there was, they definitely sidestepped some regulations, we all know that. So,
so there was something going on. You said they were heating something. They were blowing aerosols in and heating it and see what was happening. Yeah, all these, and you have this all documented at geoengineering.com.
Yeah,
correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, good. So people can go to that website, geoengineering.com, and you'll see the historic documents of these different tests. I came across, I think it was at geoengineering.com, somebody had posted a list, it was something like a 60-page report of the history of all the different geoengineering experiments across the world. And it was like it was like a Excel sheet. It was just a report.
Yeah. Okay.
That was pretty amazing.
50 years. That's an important document. It's a half century of geoengineering experimentation, and that's an ETC report. And it goes there. It's like a graph, like you said. It just tells you where the experiment took place, what the experiment was, who sponsored and funded it, what years it was. It tells you all of that. So, again, when people talk about climate change and so forth with us, we have to push further and say, yeah, climate change, but it's geoengineering-induced climate change, because they have very much manipulated the weather and interfered with the natural system. And so that's why we're stepping in here and saying, no, you don't, and it's a military communication system. So in a way, I mean, it's a double-edged sword here, what we're dealing with. Because for all these years, the military-industrial intelligence complex has been just pretty much doing their own thing, violating, this law and that law.
Yeah. All right, let me go back to the other caller on the other line. She's been hanging on. Okay, Jolie, we're going to get back to you when we round off this hour, which is going to be in a couple minutes, okay? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm bringing you both up, all right, so you both talk at the same time. Who are you still on the line, hon? My other caller?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, good, because it looked like you went off there for a while and you called back. Okay, good.
Yeah, I hit something on the phone or whatever.
Okay. So did you have anything you wanted to kind of close out with before we...
I also wanted to say, we don't really know all the players. I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's the CIA interface with the Department of Defense, but it's also farmed out to private and to probably commercial.
Mm-hmm.
But to say Monsanto, they bought Biologics out, which was a private, I don't know if it was not for profit, but that was like bee response, and and the bees are dying, and we don't know whether it's pesticides or whether it's contaminants coming or vibrations coming. We don't know, if it's the Wi-Fi or so. Monsanto bought them out, so that's a whole independent arm that got axed. And Monsanto has this other weather. They either bought it out or they formed it. It's a weather. You can buy shares, and it's actually in the second film Michael Murphy put out about why in the world are they spraying, because he's talking about the weather derivatives and how you can project certain things, and it's not just about, well, I want to have a perfect day for my wedding, so we'll pay money to this company to engineer it so that the rain clouds stay away. It was like more nefarious than that. That's Monsanto. So I'm not pointing, I'll point fingers at Monsanto any day, but I'm sure there's a whole bunch of corporations that are interfaced with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good. It's good. All right. Now, guys, we got about, a few minutes left here. I want to really wrap up and let people know that this stuff that's going on isn't just the chemicals. Now that we hear it's not just the chemicals, there's also a radiation type of thing or they're trying to warm these chemicals up, or there's something going on other than just the airplane trails that we see. And and that brings us to this 5G problem. That might be a problem, but I perceive it as, after talking to a lot of these people, that it probably is a problem. And that 5G stuff will be included in the Rhode Island H6011, I hope. And Jolie, did you want to talk about that a little bit till we round off this hour?
It's so important to connect the 5G to what we're talking about because it's integrated technologies. And so in the H6011 from Rhode Island, we have defined electromagnetism as an air contaminant. So it's, again, specific. And we might not be able to stop the towers because of the 1996 Telecommunications Act. But we can stop the pollution because if we view it in terms of emissions, it's something that is tangible. We can measure it if we have the right equipment to measure it. And again, it's unacceptable because we have to protect life. We have to protect those who are the most vulnerable and our environment because we owe it to, not just ourselves, but future humanity in 2,000 years from now. We have to intercede here and have an intervention, a human intervention, and throw this engineering paradigm off course and make them pay for all the damage. I don't know how that's going to happen, but we have to call it a task. We can't just allow it to slip by. It's been doing that since the 1950s, and that's why we've gotten here like this.
Yeah. I was thinking of that list, that Excel sheet that had the different geoengineering documented all over the planet, like what they sprayed and all that. Like somebody documented that. And honest to God, if you were living in Chile or something and you all of a sudden a whole bunch of people started getting really sick, that document could be very helpful. And that's why I think the Rhode Island H6011 bill is good, because then if a sickness did occur and people could say, all right, well, what was going on at that time? They could say, oh, well, look, there was a flight going out and they had these chemicals or this biological agent they're spraying out everywhere. Oh my gosh, that made people sick. That at least we would know. Right now, we don't know. And I know for a fact a lot of people around me, and my friends and my family, and I hear about it a lot. There's a lot of autoimmune problems and there's a lot of just weird. I feel achy, as people like, oh, it's fibromyalgia or whatever. It's MS. It's, oh, are you getting Alzheimer's? Stuff like that. And you know what? It seems like in cancer's everywhere. When back in the day, I didn't know many people with cancer. Granted, I was younger then, but it didn't seem as prevalent. Now it's like everybody's getting chemotherapy for everything. And I wonder if it has to do with the stuff that they're spraying on us.
Oh, absolutely. And we do know, Rachel. I mean, I encourage people to go to that document. It's the ETC group, A Half Century of Geoengineering Experimentation. And go to page 50, 51, and you'll see they list, in North America, USA, they had cloud whitening. They had a major research project in North America from the National Science Foundation grant to Rutgers University, NASA, Carnegie, Stanford Institute. That's Ken Caldera right there. That is 2006. So, and they're talking about SRM. I mean, and research and development. I mean, so we do know. And it's involved with the Department of Defense and NASA and CIA. And so we're talking about all the people who usually get to avoid talking about their destructive programs. But again, look, we're paying for this. The taxpayers are paying for all of this. So we have a right and an obligation to come in and correct all of this. Like crazy people were designing these programs in the 1940s and before. And so we have an opportunity and an obligation, like I said, to correct this. We have to replace this program and something that's going to be lasting. And
all right. Thank you so much. Everybody go to zerogeoengineering.com. Check out what Jolie's talking about. Thank you, everybody, for calling in. And hang on to the next hour. See you in a little bit. Well, that sounds like how I feel after the last hour. Thank you so much for everybody calling in. That was great. We had 2 people that called in, and they were very, very articulate. And today we're talking about geoengineering on the first hour. We talked to Jolie Dawn of zerogeoengineering.com, and I highly recommend everybody go over to that website and look at the documentation they have. Another woman named Deborah from Rhode Island, she also called and she shared some of her conferences that she went to and what she's experienced here in Rhode Island. And they talked about the bill that we have here called Rhode Island House, which H6011, which is basically the blueprint for other states to take and introduce in their state to try to control geoengineering. Now, in the second hour, I'm taking a different tact with this because after the interview I did with Jolie Dawn of zerogeoengineering.com a couple months ago, I guess, I got sent some, it's called Orgone, and I didn't know what it was. To me, it looked like maybe an ice cube tray got filled up with some BBs, like, BBs for a BB gun, BBs and some scrap metal and some crushed up sand, and then got poured over with some sort of blue. It looked like, I don't know, some sort of plastic or something. And I opened up the package. The package got sent to me, and it's supposed to be, protect you from, I don't know, but I just fell in love with the little thing. I thought it was very like a special thing that maybe a child's drawing. It felt like a child's drawing to me. And I was like, well, that's very special that somebody sent it to me. And there also included was this little heart. It was like a little heart pendant. It was purple and it was smaller and thinner than the blue ice cube thing. And I carry that around in my purse. It says love on the back of it. And there was 4 of these cubes, these blue cubes. And I gave one to my son and my daughter, my mother, and I have one. And we opened this package up on our sun porch. We have like a porch with screens, like a screened-in porch. And we all were sitting around looking at it, and we thought it was kind of neat. We didn't know what it was really. And I have some stories to tell about this, but I wanted to know more about this. So I contacted the person that made them, and his name is Leo Rhodes. And he's with me today. He sent me his statement, and I want to read it to you before he actually starts talking. It says, this is a statement from him. I began creating Orgone in August of 2014. I grew up and live on a farm 10 miles outside of D.C. in Maryland, and I'm very thankful for Orgone and all that is brought into my life. My creations are combinations of all my experiences and my journey, strengthening all of the best in this beautiful world we live in. Leo Rhodes. Now, Leo, you on the line with me right now?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for being on the show. Now, how did you begin to make this stuff, and why do you think I put you on the show with the chemtrail people? Not the chemtrail people. We're not supposed to call it chemtrail, but the geoengineering people. I put you on the show because the person that sent it to me said it would protect me from the effects of the chemicals they're spraying and the radiation, the 5G radiation. And I didn't really believe it. But I had that little heart. And I want to tell the story. Let me tell it first, and then you talk, yeah. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. I had this, I was at a dinner with some people, and one of the women I was with, we were talking, actually it was a meeting over, we were at the Navy was having some sort of meeting about their environmental impact or whatever. So after that meeting, we went and had dinner. And one of the women had a thing called an electrosmog meter. I never heard of that thing. I don't know what it is. And I said, well, what? Yeah, I said, what is this? And she said it measures the electro radiation going through the room. And she said, we're at a safe level right now. And I said, oh, well, what about if my phone is next to it? So everybody pulled out their cell phones, and we put this electrosmog meter next to it. The electrosmog meter was like spiking red, meaning danger or something, and then it would go to green, and then it would go back up to red. Then my phone, which was the cheapest phone on the planet, was just red, continually red. And I said, well, what happens if we put this orgone that I have? And I took out the little heart that you created, and I put it between my phone and the electrosmog meter, which I still don't really know what that thing is. And I put it between, and the readings on the electrosmog meter turned green almost consistently. And then it would spike to red for just a moment and go back to green. And I couldn't believe it, Leo. And that's when I said I had to find you. So
I'm very cool to hear that. It's a great story.
I know, but it's true. And I don't know what Orgone is. And how do you say Orgone?
Yes, Orgone.
Okay. Now you do the talking. You explain what this thing is because I don't know what it is. Go.
All right. So Orgone was a definition that was founded by Wilhelm Reich in the 1930s and 40s. He had done different work with Sigmund Freud, studying, human body, and he had noticed there was something outside of the human body that was affecting them. And so through his research, that's how he had come up with what he had found is called orgone energy, and he had found there was a positive POR orgone energy and a DOR, which he called deadly orgone energy. Well, one thing I just wanted to say, it was a quote from him that kind of ties it all together. It was really nice. So I'm just going to read that real quick here. He said, I am well aware of the fact that the human race has known about the existence of a universal energy related to life for many ages. However, the basic task of natural science consisted in making their energy unusable. This is the sole difference between my work and all preceding knowledge. So it's something that most science ignores, these energies that exist in and around everything that we love on this planet, all living life, as well as what we consider non-living life, metals and rocks. This is the same as etheric energy or Reiki energy or prana, magnetic energy, chi energy, life force energy. So what the orgone does is it brings in and attracts to it these energies and then cycles them and brings them to energy that's more acceptable for where we live in, the conditions that we were originally designed to be in here on Earth. And so what it does is it pulsates, it pushes and pulls on it. And the metals are part of what actually assists in all of that. The crystals help bring everything back into something that's more usable for who we are. So where are these energies coming from in the mass scale of what is not necessarily helpful for our human bodies and every other, living life on this planet is mostly coming from technologies that we've created over the last 50 years, from cell phone towers, from GPS and satellites, and all of this is bathing the Earth in between cities with the DOR energy. And this is what causes some people to be more irritable or feel more sluggish. It's because they're being bathed with these other energies, and they don't necessarily know why they feel the way that they do. It's coming from this mass, scale of this energy bathing everything that exists in this area. And so the orgone helps to create an environment that our bodies can do more of what it does naturally because it's absorbing this energy and bringing it to a better energy so that we can actually use. So orgone energy, it was originally, he created accumulators, and he created these accumulators using organic and non-organic materials stacked together. And he would place certain, he did experiments with others that had terminal diseases. And with his orgone accumulator, they would sit in it for 30 minutes at a time, and it would help their bodies adjust to what they needed because it would help bring them the energies that they didn't currently have in abundance and bring things back into a more, viable living energy that they can be in.
This was like that would be like a medical treatment. People would go like, I don't feel good. And he'd say, oh, go sit in this box. Was it a box? What is it?
Well, okay, so that's the Orgone accumulator box that he had actually created.
Okay.
Yeah, this was part of his research because he knew there was something affecting it, and he noticed by stacking these organic and inorganic materials that it would actually bring all of the, positive and negative, the POR and the DOR together. And so then your system could then take in what it needed to adjust itself and release the other energies that it didn't need at the same time. And
okay, so in this, do people still practice this at all, or is this just something he did at the time and it's documented?
In 1986, there was scientists at the University of Marburg, Germany. They did a blind study using his research, and they had created an accumulator, and they seen through their experiment that 30-minute treatments of the Orgone accumulator caused consistent psychological effects on the patient, or the people that were in the experiment, and that it actually was effective. So people do still create these accumulators. It is something that I consider making at some point, but it's an energy that is beyond just that accumulator. There's other methods of having, that's what the Orgone is all about. It's a combination of the fiberglass, which is resin, which is the inorganic material, and then the metal, which are helping to push and pull, and the crystals help bring everything together to change the energy into something that is more usable for all of us.
Okay. I do have to say, on top of this experience I had with the electrosmog meter, which, by the way, I don't even know what that thing is, but it has a cool name, electrosmog meter. On top of that experience, my son, because I told you I shared my those cubes with my son and my daughter and my mother. My son had always been plagued with nightmares, and when we got these cubes, he was very interested in this, the BBs and stuff in there, and he wanted to take a hacksaw and cut it up. And I said, no, don't do that. Just put it next to your bed. And, we kind of hung out. We had dinner on the porch there and everything, and he had it next to his bed. The next night, he said, I don't have nightmares. I think it's that cube. And I didn't say anything that was going to make him not have nightmares or anything like that. We were just like, wow, this person that was on my radio show sent me these things. And I wasn't like I gave him the idea that he was going to have good dreams because of this thing. But he said that it helped him he hasn't had a nightmare since. I'm a convert to this thing. I don't know what it is.
Well, yeah, I've noticed that as well. It does allow you to sleep so much better. As I started making Orgone and collecting it, within my first 6 months of placing Orgone around the house and around my parents' house, I noticed that they started being happier and more calm, not reacting so much to things, and they slept better. They were, it changes because we don't really notice all the things that are really interacting with us on a daily basis when we go out there. We blame things on certain other things that we just don't really see. But this Orgone energy, the DOR, is being blanketed, especially in places where I live. I mean, I live right near DC. There's cell towers. There's probably about 20 of them just in my immediate area here. And then the geoengineering, I mean, at moments, that's the only thing that's in the sky. The whole entire sky will get sprayed or, whatever they're actually doing at those moments. But the Orgone energy actually helps bring everything back into a cleaner, better, usable, and it's not just human beings, even animals. I have many, many customers that have said to me that their pets, their cats, their dogs, they just can't get enough of it. They want to lay next to it. They want to play with it because it's emitting an energy that it's acceptable for our body, and it's actually helping us be more of who we are. Plants as well. Any plant to bring Orgone and set it near, it's helping to create an environment where that plant can be all that it's designed to be, that all it was created to be without having these other energies that are being blanketed everywhere, affecting it and limiting its ability to grow because it's expending energy to keep itself alive. So the orgone
can I bust in with my story now? Because here's another one. I can't believe this because I just told you that we opened the box or the package with these they're blue cubes, and I think they're called towers. They're blue. Oh. Yeah. And we opened it in that, we call it the summertime room, the screened-in porch room. And in that room, I have a camellia plant that is about, 6, 7 years, 5 years. I don't know. It's a few years old. It's always been at my house. I always bring it in the wintertime. I live in Rhode Island, and it gets cold in the Rhode Island, so I got to bring it in. And it always blooms in January or February, and that's when camellia plants bloom. Now, it's trying to bloom again. There's buds all over the thing, and I don't know why. And then you just said about the plants and the nature. So maybe because we opened the box right there, I don't know. But you just said something. I said, oh, my God, that's why my plant might be blossoming. That seems strange, too. But this is amazing to me. So continue on. Just for people that are listening, this man that you're listening to, Leo Rhodes, he's got a website. It's called riseperspective.com, and you can see his creations. And I guess you can order them there. But before we even get into that, I do want you to continue on what you're talking about. I'm going on and on about how great this stuff is, but are there any negative effects for people with this stuff ever reported to you?
Now, see, that's the question that I've had about this. In the very beginning, because I didn't completely understand what parts of what I'm doing is actually creating this effect and, what elements are going into it. And so I question this a lot. And in the process of me, offering my pieces to others, I had a wonderful teacher come to my life, and I was explained very clearly that orgone cannot be used for any negative purpose. No matter what somebody wants to do, it cannot be used to harm other human beings or to bring things negative into their lives. That it'll stay all to its own. It's almost like a time capsule in a sense. When I create my orgone, all the essence of all that has been put into it is there locked in, and it's just vibing, forever. Really. I also seen that with my combinations that I've created, what it's going to create into the future. I was seeing that these are new, time capsules that will create brand new things in the future, combining elements and situations that weren't previously before into this world. But no, it can't be used in a negative way. It was something that I've questioned on many levels, and I've asked about it, but it's not something that actually would be harmful to any other human being. Some might seem as though they don't feel comfortable around it, and some of that is about this new energy that they're not necessarily familiar with from what they've been used to being bathed by, so it seems different to them, but it's actually assisting them. And in a short period of time, they'll actually be comfortable. Some within days, some within weeks, they'll actually be very comfortable having the orgone around them. I carry orgone everywhere I go. I take it and I gift it all over the place. And even places that I gifted, certain people, I've put it around fields, and they've been like, wow, my crops are doing really good this year and stuff. And they're like, I didn't do anything different, and I don't understand why. And then even other human beings, they've had tension at work and things of that nature, and I've gifted them some orgone, and I've explained to them to take it with them and to put it in their office and, put it around their environment. And they've watched human beings, they would even say to themselves, I don't know why I feel this way, why I'm so much happier, but this is great, and it's the orgone. It's helping to create a better environment for us to live in.
Okay. Now, how is this different or the same, or it's not like this at all? I've seen Himalayan salt, they sell it all over the place in health food stores and even decorating places, warehouses and whatnot. They'll sell this Himalayan salt, and you're just supposed to put it next to somewhere on your desk. And they said that the Himalayan salt, it ends up neutralizing the ions that are put out by your computer. Is it sort of similar to that, or is it different?
So all elements are a frequency. All right. So the frequency that Himalayan salt is generating it's helping us ground these energies, around us. So it is actually helping, just not on a level of cycling as much energy as Orgone. Some have said that a single tower buster can affect miles of energy as it cycles. Like in an area where I am, it wouldn't have such an effective range because the amount of bombardment, all the, technology and everything that's happening, it doesn't stretch out quite as far, but it actually cycles energy and grows. And so its effective area starts to become bigger. The salt is pulsing and generating, at the same, but it's not necessarily cycling the energy that's in that area as much as the Orgone is. But it is something that is so good to add. And I do that sometimes.
I'm sorry. It's the salt just neutralizes basically, whereas the Orgone takes the energy and like some sort of jujitsu flips it around and makes it good or something.
Well, yeah, so the salt is generating its own energy, and so that's helping our bodies from being around those other, electronic devices and stuff like that, because it is a generator within itself. But it's cycling the energy like the Orgone is, where it's taking it in and balancing everything out in the room.
Mm-hmm. And you just said that little blue, it literally looks like an ice cube. You said that could take care of miles?
Okay, so when I'm referring to that, I'm referring to more of like a muffin pan size, like if you were to take the bottom of a regular size muffin.
Okay.
That's the most common thing that's a tower buster. The mini cube so that's more, I made those so that they're smaller to carry around with you, to place in between, electronic devices, or to use in a grid system, around your house or around your work or in your car. I mean, tower busters, they're universal. It can be created in many sizes. The bigger it is, the more area that it can affect. So ultimately, the bigger.
Does the shape of this thing make a difference? Because I noticed some are cubes, some are circles, some are pyramids, and are some of them like, I don't want to say this, but they look maybe like paperweights.
Sure.
And yeah, but are all Orgone the same?
All right. Well, okay. There's a couple of questions there.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I kind of threw them all at you once.
So the Orgone shape does have an effect, but it's cycling energy inside and outside of it from all directions. It doesn't really necessarily have a particular direction. Now, you can, with combinations of different metals and, crystals, like terminated crystals, ones that are naturally pointed, you can direct a flow more. So it will have more of a directed flow. Now, as for just combining the elements by themselves, does not necessarily create it as an effective device. There is some Orgone on the market. I don't know specifically where all of it's coming from. I consider it might be coming from China. So it doesn't really have all the elements that it needs in it. It has some crystals in it. It has like a coil in it, but it's mostly empty. It's really more of an art piece than it is a piece of Orgone, because Orgone needs to have to be filled out mostly. The device needs more metals, it needs more crystals in it, and it also needs to be handled by someone who's placing the best intentions and purpose for it, because it is driven by the human beings that are actually interacting with it. It can be directed, and that's where you could use specific devices to do things to assist you, such as, if you have something medically that you need, or that you need some additional prosperity in your life. There are additional parts of that, and that's all the variety of frequencies that are being offered through the materials that are inside of it. And all that's placed by a human being who's familiar with what's going on. It took many, many, many months of experimentation for me to begin to understand what was doing what, for the Orgone device and what was going to bring the very best to everyone. And that's still expanding. It's an ever expanding situation. Orgone will continue on for many, 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 many years. So
this is almost like alchemy, what you're doing. It's really, go ahead.
It is totally alchemy. All the elements that we use, all the foods, all those things, they tie into alchemy, which is part of who we are. Our body, it takes in, nutrients, and it's taking in sunlight and all these things, and it's using that. And so others understand that, and others don't really pay attention to that. That's where the sciences have kind of ignored some of these things. And so some of their creations are creating energies and other environments that aren't really the best for us to be in, and that's where we're seeing the effects of it all over the world, where, there's people that are not very happy, people are getting sick, environments are failing, nature is suffering in certain ways because of situations that have been created by others who weren't necessarily aware of what they are actually creating. And the Orgone is helping to bring a balance to all that.
Oh, okay. So wait a second. What you said, somebody's creating this stuff maybe just to make a buck. They're selling it. That's coming from China. Could that stuff be detrimental? Like you're saying, your Orgone's going to make things like really nice, hopefully. But could that stuff that's not made with the same intention and the same care as you, if people are using that, could that use the energy to make things really uncomfortable for other people?
So Orgone it's not going to take away from your life force or anything like that. Basically what it's going to do is they're creating devices that aren't really cycling energy. The amount of, it's so minuscule that what's being created there that it's not really effective.
Okay.
It's an art piece. The crystals are emitting different frequencies based on the ingredients that are in it, but the amount of ingredients and what the placement of everything has created something that it's just not so effective. So in a sense, yes, it can be a little bit detrimental to certain ones because it can be misguiding, to others. So when they purchase it, they're considering, oh, this is Orgone, all Orgone's created equal, and, this is just what it is. And it's really not a piece of Orgone. It's more so just something beautiful to look at, and place on your desk or, as a paperweight. It's not having the effectiveness of, a piece of Orgone. Like one of my mini cubes, I know how much they affect others. When in the beginnings that got me started in all this, I had made some Orgone with a good friend of mine who knew that I had a lot of different metals because my father had a machine shop for over 40 years. And so he'd asked me to bring some, and he was making tower busters to go gift in his area, which is what a lot of Orgone creators are doing. They're not actually creating them to sell them. They're creating to go place around cell towers, to go place around parks and schools and areas in their community to assist all the human beings that live in these areas and to create a better environment for all the human beings. And so with some of my first pieces, I was like, this is a whole new situation to me, and I didn't quite understand how it could be effective, and I didn't quite feel energy coming from it. So I would take the pieces and I would show them to others. I'd hand it to them. I wouldn't tell them that I made it. I wouldn't tell them anything about it. I would just hand it to them. And certain ones would immediately become excited and start like almost dancing and jumping around, and they'd be like so happy, and they were like, what is this? This is so amazing. They're like, do you feel the energy from this? And I was just like, wow. And this happened, over and over again with certain ones. And I was like, wow, there's really something about this. And it does really affect others. I've noticed, so like some of them are, to clarify what is effective with my Orgone in my experiments, I've used human beings who are very sensitive to energy. And I've used their experiences and communication with them as to what's actually been created there. And so it's important to know who you're getting your Orgone from and where it's coming from, because not all Orgone is created equal. There's a lot of very beautiful human beings that are creating very effective, powerful pieces all over the globe. But then there's other ones that are creating things just to turn money. They're putting something together because they know that others are becoming aware of these situations. And so they're looking to fill the market, with what they have. But it's not actually, if you were to place some of those pieces in an area like, say, you worked in a computer lab or something, or, you're around a lot of electronics and stuff, it's not going to be as effective in assisting that human being as a real piece of orgone created by someone who's, paying attention to what's happening and learning it and asking, what is this doing, and then experiencing that with others, to bring the very best to the situation.
Okay, so I have another question, and I'll probably ask 3 questions in this one question, but how so the little blue cube that I have, if people want to go to Leo's website, riseperspective.com, he's got a whole bunch of the stuff that he makes, and you'll probably see them. This one, mine is blue. It looks like maybe an ice cube, and it's blue, and it's got little shards of metal in it and BBs. Now, you said that one's good to kind of put all around the house, to kind of in a grid type of pattern. Now, when this person sent this to me, we had been talking on my show about the G5 stuff, or the 5G, the cell phone stuff. And she said this would help with that.
Yeah,
okay, okay, that's good. All right, so then I also wanted to know, would this help with the geoengineering stuff? You had said you lived on a farm, and people put this in there. Does it seem to help with that? And I want you to talk about that some more.
All right, so one thing I noticed, so I had created tower busters, with my friend, and then, he had explained to me how you place them in certain areas around cell towers, and you can place a grid around your house. And when you place a grid, it can have crystals in it as well. It doesn't just have to be orgone devices. But how you create a grid is by placing the items out there and then drawing lines connecting all of these pieces together in your mind, right? And then you place an intention for purpose, and that helps to drive all this. All of these pieces are actually connecting, even if you're not previously, aware of this or, understanding all these things. The orgone devices they're connecting with your body. And so what I noticed is after placing a grid around the farm, when I would see, planes that would leave trails in the sky, all right, so it'd be a straight line, coming across. And I would notice sometimes within 30 minutes or even sooner that the line was gone over the top of the farm. And when I would look off to the right, that same line was solid. As far as I could see out there, it was solid. And then to the left side, it was solid again. But above the farm, it was completely gone. And this consistently happens. And I've noticed it's almost like a bubble. Like when I would come onto the property, I would notice a change. Like I'd feel more comfortable. Everything would become more calm. And part of that is because I'm at home, but it's the orgone veil that I've created. The energy that's cycling there is actually creating a better environment. I've watched all sorts of things. I mean, so much of nature and trees even that were like being attacked by bugs and things that didn't seem like they were going to continue. They were dying off and things. And now they have all new limbs growing. They're growing abundant, fruit trees that seemed very sick because, they were of age or things of that nature. And now they're thriving and strong again as though they were a young tree. It really does change the whole environment as well as the sky. And there are parts of these devices that can affect even further up. Wilhelm Reich used to call them cloud busters. And some of them, they use copper pipes along with crystals and orgone technology put together. And they will help balance weather cycles to where if it's really dry, it'll help it rain. If it's getting too much rain, it'll help balance it out. And
could it affect, like if they were doing geoengineering, could it counter any of the geoengineering? You're saying you don't see it going over your house, like you feel like you've created like a little safety bubble around your fields with your orgone. do you think if people are literally trying to dry up California, or if they're trying to create massive rain somewhere in, say, Vietnam or something, that these creations that you do could help, they could counter that? Yes?
Yeah.
No? Yes, it could.
Yeah, I do agree with that. Very much so. I see this happen, and it's from some certain ones will say, you know, no matter how much they try, it won't be effective because of the orgone is cycling this energy. And I watch it, you know, be that the line clears above the farm, and it's still solid off in the distance. It lets me know that it's more than just the wind, because the other parts of that line aren't even spread out or anything. They're still solid, which means that what the orgone has done, it be that it either absorbed it or took it in or separated it or brought it into something that was better for, you know, the earth as a whole. I know that it is affecting everything. And I've also witnessed in areas that others have gifted heavily with orgone dramatic changes. And even it's been linked to certain ones just at crime rates and other parts of things, because when these other devices or attempts that ones have made to, you know, create different environments on Earth by geoengineering, this orgone has helped to change that cycle and bring things back into, you know, more of where the Earth belongs and where we all belong in. And so I do agree very much that it is affecting it and helping to keep all of us where we need to be.
Okay. Now, you had mentioned something previously. There's people that go by the cell towers and they bury them, or they put them near the cell towers. Now, is that like a team of people that are doing this as a concerted front to try to help the planet and people in general? Or is this just like lone gunman type of people that are just flying around with orgone? It seems to me that I'm kind of picking up that this is like kind of a concerted, kind of a cool thing to do for a certain group of people.
Well, let's put it this way. There is no limitation to the amazing, beautiful things that human beings bring to Earth. No matter what others try to convince them, the best will come forward. And so this is almost like a uniting or awakening of other human beings, and they're becoming aware of these things and learning the tools that we need to bring us to where we need to go, you know, to where we need to be, to what we want to be. Yeah, this is something that's happening worldwide, and it's been going on for over 30 years. For over 30 years, orgone has been being created by others. And it is by, you know, human beings who want to see things better, and who want to bring the, you know, the very best into other human beings' lives and to help all of us feel better and happy, because that's what we're really here for, is, you know, to be well, to be happy, to bring joy, you know, and laughter and excitement and creativity. All those things are what we desire. But so many, because of the lifestyles and situations that have been created, like, I love technology. Technology is amazing, and we wouldn't be able to communicate right now. Like, this is part of technology, and we need that, and we deserve all that to keep advancing and creating better things. But in the process of all that, because science has left parts out, there's missing elements that need to be taken into consideration, and orgone is part of, you know, helping to assist that and to bringing things into what we really need for all of us to enjoy all the things that are helping us do things easier and communicate more, you know, at the same time, feel good, you know, every day. Because really, you know, that's what it's all about, is being happy and healthy. You know, your well-being, I encourage many others more and more to consider well-being at the highest priority above all other things outside of their environment, you know, outside of their body, you know, to put their well-being first, you know. And I know orgone is part of that, you know, situation that's helping others realize this and enjoy their lives more.
Now, thank you. Now, you said the word gifting a bunch of times during this interview.
Yeah.
Should people, now if people buy this for themselves, is it better to have it gifted to them or to buy it for themselves?
Well, that's all by choice. So I get the Orgone. That's part of why I even started selling it in the first place, because I started seeing how much. I live in the D.C. area. There's cell towers everywhere. There's, things that happen in the skies. There's even things I really don't even begin to have accountability for. And so I realized the need for how much Orgone was out there, especially after experiencing how certain ones reacted to it, responded to, the Orgone devices. So gifting what others are doing, many of them are creating it and then they're placing it in these environments, for others. The gifting is part of the whole thing. Purchasing is one thing, and, gifting is another. All is the same, all is the same, really.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Now, I did do a search on YouTube because I literally don't know much about this, and I'm so happy that you're talking to me about this and sharing this with everybody, because I am astounded by how this little thing has worked for my son and next to my cell phone. I mean, this to me is like, it's incredible. But I did search on YouTube, and I did see one thing online, and it said that Orgone is like a portal basically for, bad things. Now, do you think there's like a effort to make it seem evil on purpose, or do you think these people really believe it?
Well, I don't really know particularly about that. I know that there are ones that are looking to market anything that they can market. It doesn't necessarily have to be legit. Some of them will say, if people don't know about it, then they don't know about it. I'm just going to sell my items. Orgone itself is not a portal. So I had this one client of mine who was purchasing Orgone from me every month, and I was very, very happy with all of that. And in communication, I noticed that she was saying that as soon as she would open the box of Orgone, she would see black energies go and get sucked into the device. And then she would take and bury them in her backyard because she thought that it was full, or she'd put it in salt to try to help clear it or cleanse it. And I was explaining to her that it's cycling the energy, that it's perfectly well. But even in travels, it would suck in these, energies. She would see these black energies. Now, personally, I haven't really seen these energies, but I know that I don't really see everything that's around me necessarily that's there. At the same time, I had done some research around that same time, and I had found that others were using Orgone devices in houses that certain human beings were saying, had high activity of what they consider to be poltergeist, or, things that were messing with stuff, like causing chaos and pain, or, other things. And by placing the Orgone device in the house, within moments, all of that activity would stop. And
wow.
They've gone on to explain how the Orgone cycling the energy was taking away from what these other beings were feeding off of, the energies that they were there for feeding on. It was actually absorbing them. And so then they would leave because they didn't have a food source anymore. So, yeah, it's not actually a portal opening to anything, negative, but it will, based on my experience, and I've had others who have had similar experiences that they've shared with me about activities that they didn't really know how to identify them, but then after having the Orgone with them, they felt so much more comfortable and so much happier, and they didn't experience these things any further. And it was they identified it as the Orgone because that was the only thing different in their environment. So.
Yeah, I just had a story somebody told me very recently that they had always had, I guess, a type of tinnitus, like a ringing in their ear. They would hear this all the time. And somebody sent them some Orgone, gifted it to them. And 2 days later, the guy realized he wasn't hearing the ringing in his ear anymore. And he was like, well, maybe it's the Orgone. So he kept it. And so that's kind of cool. That's a cool thing. But, yeah.
Now, I had this one customer. I don't know who they are. I've never really spoken to them, but they had left a review for me. And in the review, it was for my light blue mini cubes, and they said they had swelling in their ankles, and they've had it for over a year, and they had tried different types of medications and gone to different doctors, and nothing that they did seemed to help their legs. They had a lot of pressure and pain and swelling in their ankles. So they placed one of my cubes in each of their socks, right? And within 1 week, the swelling was completely gone. And their doctors even were like, we don't know what has happened, but, you're fine now, and they were thanking me in this review. They were like, I'm so very thankful for these Orgone pieces, just by placing them in there, it has helped, them be a lot better.
Wow.
I'm not saying taking the credit for all that, this was just a review, and I was very thankful to read that. And so that was what I see it as, is helping their body, do what it was meant to do, because our bodies are designed to heal themselves. Our bodies have everything that it needs already built into it. It's just a matter of what type of environment that we live in, and the Orgone is helping us live in a better environment in these times when we have so much of this other electromagnetic energies and creations going on that aren't necessarily, being clarified to others what they're actually generating and creating in our environment, which isn't, where we live at.
Right. Now, could this, because it says, you just told us the story about somebody who had the swollen ankles and they put it in there, got basically healed. Could this do something, for instance, what if the person carried this orgone in their chest pocket? Could it affect their heart? Because I bring this up because I did contact some of these people that have Orgone. I asked them what happened, and one person said, "I don't know, but my heart seems like it skips a beat every once in a while."
Oh, well, I know that Orgone it's not bringing any harmful situations to who we are and to animals and plants. I'm aware of that, because that was one question I really had about it, in the beginning, and I really wanted. So I know that it's not going to hurt them. Now, based on who they are and their life experiences and things that they're doing every day, it very well could be helping them, and they're experiencing differences in their body because their body is changing, as this environment, because their bodies are no longer experiencing the bombardment so much, and this energy is being cycled. So for some, it's a different situation in the beginning than what they're used to, being around. And
right.
It becomes more comfortable, as things go on. Many immediately are, very happy, and they feel an immediate change and better and well-being. But this is all, this is identified differently. We're all very similar, but all human beings, even twins, are very different. They're very different.
Tell me about it. I've got twins. They're very different, but it's right.
And so another thing that Orgone is really good for is actually your electric bills. So because it is cycling energy and bringing energies into a better environment, I know for a fact that it actually will assist your household in having better electrical bills. If you place Orgone devices around outlets, placing them on your electrical meters outside, it'll cycle this energy and actually allow things to operate better. My car, even, as I've put Orgone devices in my car, I didn't have a lot, but I immediately almost received better gas mileage. And
get out! Seriously?
I'm very serious. And I've tested it, with rental cars and with other human beings' cars, and I've noticed an increase in fuel economy in ability with having Orgone here, as well as other devices. Well, I've had electronics and things that weren't, functioning, because I'd used them for so long, and by having Orgone around them, all of a sudden they're operating smooth and easy, almost like they were brand new again. So this is
wow, that's great. This is crazy. This is, not crazy. This is incredible. The word should be incredible. Wow. I can't tell people enough about how amazed I was when this happened to me with the cell phone and this little piece of Orgone. And I had to track down Leo to find out how this stuff works, what it is, what the intention behind it is. And it, just so everybody knows, when I opened it, my original feeling was love. I opened it up and I felt like I had opened up a child's drawing. That's how I felt. I was like, oh, this is the best little thing. So, it was, I don't even know how to, that was my experience with it. So I would highly recommend everybody go check out what he's got going on over at riseperspective.com. I'm not making this into a big commercial, but it's basically turning into one because I love these things. I think they're pretty cool. But I'm still curious. Now, can you tell me more about the inventor of this technology? I know you said it was back in the late 1800s. Is that when you said it? Or was it in the 1900s?
Well, that's when Wilhelm Reich was born. It was in the 30s and 40s when he started on orgone. And one thing that he had noticed is that orgone, it's all around us. So he found that certain non-metallic materials, wood, cotton, fiberglass, and plastic, attracted orgone energies and held them, and then metal attracted and then rapidly repelled it, and that's part of the combinations that go into this. But so orgone energy is it pulsates energy, and it is observable and measurable, and it fills all spaces and is everywhere. It is it's mass free, and it's primordial. It's a cosmic type energy, and it penetrates matter. So orgone will penetrate through buildings. It'll penetrate through your cars, through your forests, and it'll spread out. It's going in and through everything. And he also noticed that concentrated orgone energy has a blue to violet color that it's actually emitting. So Wilhelm Reich, he had done some other studies. Like, he actually had created some devices that were actually helping to create, water and create clouds that would rain in areas, as well as absorbing clouds and taking away, heavy, dangerous rain clouds. There's so many things. Like, Wilhelm Reich has just pages and pages. His research goes on. It could take years, literally, for one to really go through it all. So I encourage all others to please, look up Wilhelm Reich and research who he is and what he's created and all the great research that's helped to clarify this existence that we are all experiencing.
Right on. Excellent. I just want people to know that coming up on Shadow Citizen on August 23rd, I'm going to have an author of a book, Anne Louise Geltman. She's the New York Times best-selling author, and she's got a book it's called Zapped. It's about living in this world with electromagnetic stuff that we're dealing with. And I'm definitely going to bring up Leo Rhodes in Orgone because she's a holistic and integrative medicine person, and she seems like she'd be open to what you're talking about. And I really hope our audience checks out this stuff because, like I said, it's amazing to me, and I want to share this with everybody, what's going on. On top of it, I thought it would be a good thing to couple up with our call-ins about last week's interview with Ken Caldera of the UN's IPCC report, Intergovernmental Climate Change report that he did, and the geoengineering projects that are being proposed. And in some places, it appears that they're actually doing. So I wanted to give people some hope that they could maybe do something to help themselves. Maybe they could get some orgone and it would help them, protect them a little bit. So thank you so much, Leo, and thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And I really hope you'll tune in next week at ShadowCitizen.online. Thank you.